And good evening. Sorry for the delay getting to you. Had some little minor difficulties here and there and just absolutely running late. So no good excuse. But good to see you. Good to be with you tonight. Tuesday night Q&A.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Melissa.
Hey Melissa, how you doing? I hope everyone has had a good early start to the week. Don't know where you all are. But we're in a place called Carolina Beach. We've been in the news, even on the national news.
Ooh, we're big time now.
Yeah. Um, Ben was a tropical storm came through the area and dumped 15 inches of rain in a few hours.
Which is not
We,
nearly the total we got.
but it did cause a significant amount of flooding, which was wholly
Mhm.
unexpected. I mean, we had in the little downtown area close to the beach, there was probably 4 or 5 feet of water. And some sections of the road are still blocked off. You have sections of the roads being washed out.
Mhm.
Um, Obviously, the beach was torn up pretty good. A lot of houses flooded, and we're fine. We sit
We're fine. Yeah.
literally on one of the highest spots on the island. We're probably about 20, 22 feet above sea level, and we sit on a little knoll up above the street. So our street was flooded about, I don't know, 2.5 feet deep.
At least.
Storms, yeah, storm sewers all backed up, all flooded. Got plugged. Can't think of the right word here. And so nothing was draining. So I went out there and in the middle of the storm and tried to unplug them. That was fun. But yeah, no, we didn't have any real problems. There were 3 cars that got flooded out just on our street. There's about 50 on the island. It's a small island, and so there's still a lot of cars stranded. Will be, and if you could, if you if you if your car drinks water into the engine, air intake, fuel injection, engine, you're going to have some serious issues. That is not a cheap repair. You may even end up buying a new engine. So,
Yeah. Yeah. You don't stop in water like that, and you definitely don't turn your car back on if it stalls.
yeah, and if you drive through it, once it get ups above your above halfway above your tires, and you don't know how
Sometimes.
deep the rest of it is, that's probably as far as you ought to go. And
Mm-hmm.
drive slow. You get that wave in front of your car, and it can just suck up your air intake. So, just a word of warning: if you live in an area and ever have some sort of flash flooding, and we even had roads washing out and some sinkholes. Your car will
Mm-hmm.
go into a sinkhole. You can't tell there's a hole there with water.
Nope.
So you get that kind of flooding, just don't drive. Subtle hint.
Especially if you're not used to it and you've never had to deal with it before. Don't.
Well,
Just
even then, you can't tell whether there's holes or issues or a strong current. If you've got a small car and there's a cross current, it can sweep your car on down the current. It's just, you just don't need to be out in that mess. Hello, Sky. How are you doing? Good to see
how's
you.
it going?
Um, Hope everyone else is doing well. We're our little area is kind of in recovery mode, but there were
Yeah,
no injuries.
I went to the hair salon today, and one of the girls, Shannon, who I used to work with, excuse me for 1 second, all of her clients for today were from Southport, and the ferry's not running, none of that stuff. It's just not happening. She was like, "Well, going home." I was like, "Yeah, nothing else you can do, really. Go enjoy that baby of yours."
Yeah, some of the roads in Southport are washed out, so they can't get out.
Mm-hmm.
And the only other way out is the ferry, and the ferries weren't running today. So it's kind of a mess, a little bit of a
Schools
mess.
were closed too. There's a lot of power lines down further in town. Like we're on a little island on the very bottom end of Wilmington. But
Yeah, the funny thing is, schools didn't close yesterday. And so parents and all the kids went to school, and then the flooding and everything started. They had to try to get the kids out. And that's where some of the cars got stuck, parents trying to go get their kids.
mhm.
And so they weren't able to get to their kids. And it was just a cluster screw up.
I mean, no one was
Um,
talking about this storm around here. I mean,
yeah, nobody expected anything like this.
aw, thank you. It's blonde now again, finally. It's only been 2 years since I've had it done, maybe. Yikes. But thank you. Yes, I actually went to girl I used to work with, Kelly, because I knew she would do a fabulous job. And of course she did. I love her to death. If you're ever in this area, Wisp Salon, big shout out to them.
Yeah, she is. She's happy.
Yeah, it took, I decided I wanted to get highlights again about 6, 8 months ago. It took me this long to make the appointment. Because that's me. It's what I
So,
do.
so yeah, it was a good day. Um, like I say, things are drying out a little bit in most areas. Some of the low lying areas still have water. The water's not, the ground's saturated, so it's not soaking up the water. That'll take a few days in some of the real low lying areas, but we'll see.
Mm.
Actually, my cue of the night was for E. How can I make my hair the same color as yours? That's what I've been wanting for so long.
The way it is now, or the way it was earlier today or Saturday. If it's like this, it's going to be a process. You're going to have to do a lot of like high lift color now. Okay, high lift color, and then go back and do highlights. That's the safest way to do it if you want to protect the integrity of your hair, which was always a thing. But I know your hair is shorter, so you could just bleach it all and then do low lights.
And end up at about the same place.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then like to get if you got it done again, what you would do is do like a base break, which would just lighten. I don't want to say roots. Your roots are in your head, but
Right at the base.
the new growth, and then end up doing highlights later, and then maybe low lights, and just kind of go back and forth to keep it maintained. That would be my suggestion.
So there you go.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Well, it's not that simple, but you know what I mean. I have been platinum a few times. It's a lot of lightener, whole lot of bleach.
I can't imagine you platinum. Just can't.
You haven't seen pictures?
No.
Wonder why not.
If I did, I didn't realize they were platinum.
Oh, it was white. Yeah.
Yeah. I can never find the right color toner stuff, no matter what I try. It always turns out orangish.
You gotta let it lift longer. You gotta let the bleach sit on there much longer. That's the issue. There's only, this is like so random. There's only 2 color molecules in your hair, black and red, period. And it doesn't matter where you start. There are 10 to 12 levels of hair color, depending upon if it's European or American. Americans 10, Europeans 12. But once you get to like 6, 5, 6, that color, that level of light, it's always going to have an orange face to it. It's always going to look orange. It doesn't matter who you are. So you have to, the way you counteract orange typically is with blue. You go across the color wheel, just like you would if you were painting. But yeah, you've got to let it lighten more, much more. You got to get it up to like 7. And if you do leave it at like that 6, and you decide that you like that base, I don't want to say tone, that's not the word I'm looking for, that level. Mine is about a 6 at the base. My natural is about a level 6. You can go in with blue, a blue back toner, and then go in and do like highlights, which would be exactly what's been done here. And then you tone it with, after that, then you tone it with a neutral with some green, and that will tone it down. If that makes any sense to you. I don't know. Yeah, but you got to let it get past that orange stage.
Yeah, I hope that made sense to y'all. You know, from my position, basically a paint by numbers person. So,
You
but
can leave it
flip
longer
side
than
is
that.
I won't be having my hair done.
And if you need to use 40 volume, at least 30, because it depends on how many. 40 volume is going to lift it at least 4 shades. 30 is at least 3. But they do have blue shampoo, which is awesome, which also it just cuts that orange completely. Because the violet adds more of the red into it, which you don't want.
So when you go to the place where you buy the hair color or whatever, it says, 40 or 30 or whatever on it,
The volume of the peroxide. Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's peroxide. Okay.
Yeah, that's what you mix with the bleach. You've never seen the blue? The blue shampoo is awesome. I love the blue shampoo. Um, I'll pick one out on Amazon and send it to you. Send you the link. Yeah, I mean, I would start with 30 because because the peroxide, what it does is it blows open the cuticle of your hair shaft. Um, and then I would start there. 10 is not going to really lift anything. It's just, it barely gets in there. It's more of like, I mean, for some of the toners, I just use hydrogen peroxide like you get with the drugstore, because that's enough to get it in there, because you don't need much after your cuticle is blown open by the 30 or the 40. And then you got to let it rest for like a couple days after you do the whole process, especially if you're going that high of a level. You need to and you tone it. Don't wash it for 2 or 3 days, because you've got to get your pH back down so that the cuticle closes and it will hold the color in. Are you learning all about hair color tonight, Clay?
It's, my background is in chemistry, so I find the whole process kind of an interesting deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the exact procedures. I don't know the, compounds used, but some of it is stirring up, old memories, let's say, in terms of chemical reactions.
Yeah,
It's Tuesday
like
night
Melissa.
Q&A.
And
That's
actually,
perfect.
give me 1 second. I have all this stuff out.
That's part of the deal of Q&A. You have questions, you ask them. We'll talk about them.
And
And
then,
obviously,
I'm sorry.
and we come from kind of diverse backgrounds, so there's a range of topics that we'll gab about, and if we don't know, we can find out or try to find out. So,
And Melissa, if you get your hair to like a good base color and you get it toned, this stuff is Joico Free Play. You can put a 40, mix it with 40 volume and paint it through your hair, and that will bring it back up, and it doesn't mix in with the rest of your hair. It stays where you put it, so you don't have to worry about like touching other hair or whatever. It's great.
Sky, I'm lucky no hair problems because I am always washing my son's hair, and I'm always wet. He loves being in the shower and needs supervision. So if I go outside, I just put on the Moffat hat.
We like that. We like that a lot.
Yeah, one of these days we're going to get up a store where you can, where folks can order, some of the clothing stuff we've shown, because we had pretty good response off that hat, a few things.
And then we just kind of flaked out. Sorry about that, y'all.
Yeah.
Couldn't
No comment.
Replay. Of course. Or you can call me anytime. I mean, not a big deal. I did this for 14 years. And yeah, I had a client that I did her hair for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years. And then she went to somebody else. And when I started doing hair again, because I had quit to do something else, she came to see me, and I was like, girl, your hair would be orange. It'd just be orange. And she's like, it's been orange for 2 years. I was like, what in the world? I said, we're going to fix this. I said, it's going to take a little time because we're going to do a lot to do it, to fix it. Because her hair was longer than mine. But yeah, we did it. And we got her back to no orange. And now she's still no orange. So God bless her. Put on. We'll get that embroidered. No problem. At least a rain jacket.
We need to finish that cow picture. It's
I know,
about
I'm so
85% done. There's a lot of little detail in that mullet.
The detail takes a long time. That is
It's a good challenge, but yeah, there's a lot of detail in that thing.
It is like you have to go back and forth and paint because I can't find all the numbers because I can't see worth a darn. And then I'm like, oh crap, I just used that paint for that, and now I got to go back and wash the brushes again. I'm a little OCD about it.
All right, this is Tuesday Night Q&A, and we've had a couple of questions, both in comments and email. We had one from last Saturday night. Can we have a conversation about stocks and gold? Wondering if need to take a position out of stocks and move it to cash. Now, let me go ahead and issue the standard disclaimer. I am not offering investment advice. I'm no longer a registered investment advisor. I share with you my thoughts and opinions on what, I do or would do. And the goal of this channel is to try to provide information to help you make a better decision. Oh, yeah, the disclaimer there. You can't sue us if we're wrong. No, wait a minute. We're not offering advice.
This is not financial advice.
Okay.
So you can't sue us if we're wrong.
And you will almost never hear me take a firm, absolute position on what the market's going to do over any length of time. I honestly I can consistently predict what the market's going to do tomorrow because majority of the time it goes up. But other than that, I have no specific predicative ability as to what the market's going to do, the next week or 6 months. There's so many different influences, factors. But what I do, which has been, consistently successful, is follow trends in the numbers and the data, and that kind of help describe what's going on in the economy or where the economy is headed.
Just like Jim Cramer, except you're better at it.
I don't know what Kramer follows. I have no idea. Because he rarely, if ever, talks about economic data or trends in economic data.
And if he
But
says it, you should do the opposite.
yeah. But because the market will generally, historically, has followed along with the economy. Now, honestly, the past 10 years, it has not. And this is due to the Federal Reserve pumping in free money. And we've talked about that several times. So I won't necessarily go over that unless somebody asks a question. And so to
And
me,
if you do, if you need us to
absolutely.
Again, let us know.
So the Fed is the 800-pound gorilla in the room to me. If the Fed is going to cut rates, which they are going to start, we'll talk about that in a minute. If the Fed is going to cut rates, and more importantly, if they are going to start QE again, where they cut rates extremely low and they go out and they buy securities in the marketplace, or they provide basically free money to the big banks to go buy securities. We'll call that process QE for short.
Quantitative easing.
Then the market's going up. It doesn't matter what's going on in the economy. The market is going up. The Fed has an endless printer and can print off trillions of dollars and dump it in the market. Well, the market is going up, stocks and bonds. Now, if the Fed doesn't do that, the market should return to a relationship with what's going on in the economy as a whole. So I hope that transition has begun. So I am following kind of the economic data. The market still hasn't quite fully bought along. It's still hoping the Fed begins QE again, even though Powell has consistently refused to do that, even stated that QE was a big problem, is a cause for some of the current mess we're in. And several Fed governors have said the same. Now, the flip side to that is some of those governors have been removed and other governors have been appointed. And the new governors are more dovish, is a nice way to say it.
What does that mean?
That means they come from a school of thought known as modern monetary theory, which they think you can print as much money, government can print as much money as it wants, and it doesn't cause inflation. I mean, that's a stark contrast to history to reality.
It doesn't to them at the moment.
Yeah, it doesn't to them at the moment. But for, you and I, kind of, average people, poor, middle class, it can be crushing. So it's a theoretical abstraction that just doesn't hold up in history. And we can wax poetic, about that or not, but probably that would be better to do on a recorded show for those people who have insomnia at 3 a.m. in the morning, because it would be dry. So I'll spare you those details. But, traditionally, historically, if you look at inflation, systemic inflation, not just in one product or one line, Apple could have a problem with, its iPhone manufacturing plants or demand for one iPhone, and the price goes up. That's inflation in one product. But that doesn't affect food, that doesn't affect energy, that doesn't affect housing, those kind of things. I'm talking about systemic inflation across the broad spectrum of products and services. That is always, historically, always been a monetary event where the government is printing money in excess of economic growth. So historically, inflation is always a monetary event. Modern monetary theory argues past is not prologue. That doesn't have to be the case. So take it for what it's worth. Now, as far as the question, getting out of stocks and into gold. Gold has been hot lately. It's up 40% so far this year, or 50. I think Bitcoin's up 40%. I think Bitcoin had a pretty good day today too, actually. And in terms of stocks are up 18 or 20% for the year. It's a pretty good year, and it's only 9 months into the year. But as for me and mine, I remain very, very cautious of stocks because Powell for years has resisted doing QE. He's even tried to reduce the Fed's balance sheet, reduced it from 11 down to 9 in the past few years. So that's not insignificant. Now, of course, he's under a lot of pressure to reverse that, to cut rates and to start buying bonds again. But he's resisted. I believe he will continue to. I think he is far more cautious than what many in Washington, D.C. would like him to be. So if the market hits that perspective, and it may very well tomorrow, then there'll be some fairly severe reactions. There's a risk there. My point is there's a risk there. I think that's a modestly severe risk. So I'm being a lot more conservative. And historically, gold, we talked a little bit about it Saturday. Gold has been a kind of a safe haven or a flight to safety kind of thing, particularly where there's inflation or, bad monetary policy or wars or economic crisis. A lot of people have historically bought gold. Now, through the mid-late 80s, 90s, 2000s, gold was just flat, didn't do anything for 25 years. And then the subprime crisis hit. Gold, during this lull period, we had crises. You had the Russian event, you had the dot-com bubble, you had 9/11. You had a couple of recessions. Didn't really have high inflation, but there were some economic events, a number of economic events, and gold just didn't budge. Well, subprime crisis, gold starts to jump again. Calms down in the middle of the 2015, 2019 era. Things were relatively flat. And then once inflation started again, it has kind of come back to life. So it seems like the market has revisited gold. Investors have revisited gold. They're now more interested in it as a risk asset, an asset you buy when things are getting increasingly risky. Will that continue? Can't guarantee it, but I think it's highly likely because there are so few other assets now that provide a safe haven with inflation and poor economy. We stand a very good chance of repeating the 70s when you had a stagnant economy and inflation, stagflation. So if that occurs, gold will probably be a very viable investment alternative. Now, the stock market, even some of the stocks did well. Stocks oftentimes can do pretty decent in inflation. But the initial impact of rate cuts, particularly when the economy is headed down, the market is usually negative 6 months, a year out. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at history. Because we've been in this kind of scenario where the economy is starting to downturn and, inflation is ticking back up, but the Fed goes ahead and cuts. Well, the market's down, 15, 18% in 6 months. It's down 30% in a year. So those are very real risk to me. And depending on your age and your ability to tolerate risk, for most people, I would probably advise caution. Certainly not 100% in stocks. And if you aren't happy with being in cash, do some split, 30% in stocks, 40% in stocks, whatever, but maintain a more defensive position. The stocks, utilities have had a good run. They're usually considered more of a defensive stock. So this year, that's probably the fastest growing sector of all the stock sectors. Large global corporations with steady income, sales, cash flow would also be considered somewhat defensive. High dividend paying stocks would be, considered a little bit more defensive. Still with some upside potential if the market moves. And you've seen utilities and large caps be two very active sectors leading the returns if you throw out NVIDIA and a couple of the semiconductor companies. So as far as what to do, for me, I'm still a little cautious on the market. Probably would look more at gold, possibly Bitcoin. Bitcoin today was up $2,000, about 3.5%, 4%. That's not a bad day. Knowing Bitcoin, that can vaporize tomorrow. It's a volatile little booger. But if you look at it over time, 3 years, 5 years, it's hard finding that there's really only one 3-year period where it's negative. So gold has negative periods. It's impossible to find a perfect asset. So you just make the best decision you can. Now, a big story, kind of underlying all this is the Fed. What's the Fed going to do? Well, tomorrow is D-Day, decision day. Tomorrow, the Fed announces how much it's going to cut. Pretty much everybody, it's a given to everybody that it will cut. Powell has even stated that it's time. Now, for the last few weeks, the market has anticipated a 25 to 50 basis point cut. 25 basis is a quarter of a point. 50 basis points is half a point. Right now, the rate is currently 5.25. So the market is thinking there's a 50-50 chance of it dropping to 5% or 4.75%. If you look at one predictor, and we've looked at this a couple times before, it's called WIRP, World Interest Rate Prediction. And it's this little graph down at the bottom you want to look at. The top line is 0. So if you see these gold bars heading down, that's the prediction of the amount of cuts, the number of cuts. So you've got the blue line, which is the implied rate. So this first gold section, this is the one today, the current rate. Here's where we are at the Fed's next meeting, which is actually tomorrow. And it shows basically 1.6, the market is predicting 1.6 cuts. So one cut is 25 basis point. So that's a way of saying that 65% of the market is predicting a 50 basis point cut, and 35% is predicting a 25% basis cut. Now, in November, the consensus is pretty strong. There's going to be a 75 at least a 75 point basis cut. So
Are
if
you
they
sure?
cut, pardon?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm looking at it right here.
Okay.
So the market is saying, okay, they'll do 50 tomorrow. There's a strong probability they'll do a 50 basis point tomorrow, and then another 25 basis point in November. So that's work. That's one interest rate probability projection. This is another big one. This is, whoops, that's the wrong one. This is the one I wanted. This is the Fed funds futures. Now it shows the price of the future here. And if you can, well, damn it. And if you can see, it's at 5.33. It's the wrong screen. Sorry, I copied the wrong one. This is the current futures rate.
Come on.
What I wanted to show you was the one that's 2 months out. And it basically shows the rate at about what was it? Oh, I want to say 4.9. It's pretty close, but the deal is that today it jumped from 50-50 between 50 basis points and 25 basis points to about 70% expecting a 50 basis point cut. Now, in the world of futures and finance, that's a damn big jump in one day. So it makes you wonder, was there some leak, some inside information that spurred the shifting of the weight to a 50 basis point cut? Don't know. There's no news in the markets, no real reason that I've seen given for it. But a record number of wagers, as it were placed on 50 basis point cut today. So it kind of blew the Fed funds futures up. In other words, all of that is just to say this is going to be the most exciting Federal Reserve meeting we've had this year. And I can tell the anticipation is building out there.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
Yeah, most people don't find all this terribly interesting, but this is terribly important because the whole stock market is riding on this. The economy, it will impact the economy.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Elizabeth Warren, just in terms of perspective, Elizabeth Warren came out today, the senator, and was saying that the Fed should cut at least 75 basis points. Now, to me, that smells like fear. So you've got the market saying we need a 50 basis point, at least a 50 basis point. You've got some of the Democratic politicians saying we need a 50 to 75 basis point. That to me is kind of an open testimony that everybody knows the economy is getting worse.
Yeah,
and there's
also,
risk of significantly worse.
She also wants it to go down before the election.
Yes.
Because
that is not.
They're female, which is fine, but it's not actually going to help anything.
Well, she wants it to go down quickly because she thinks it will kind of start to turn the economy around within the next 50 days. Probably not.
It's a false flag. I mean, that would be like, let's do it, but there's going to be fallout from it, like another bubble. It's like you can't keep doing the thing that is causing all the chaos.
Yeah, and keep in mind, 25 basis points, 50 basis points, 75 basis points. We have history. And we can look at the Fed fund rates. Now, if I go back to 1990, this is the Fed fund rate. You can tell here that there's just, kind of a series of cuts. This is 1990 to 94. So over the 3-year period, the Fed funds rate went from 8 down to about 3.5. So kind of a steady downward trend, but not rapid. And then you see here 95 to 99, it's kind of stabilized around 5.5, 6%. And then when you see it decline sharply, well, this is the dot-com bubble and this is 9/11. They happen pretty much back to back. So, starting around 2003, 4, the Fed starts hiking again bit by bit, kind of hits a plateau in 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, subprime crisis starts slamming and the Fed cuts the hell out of it quickly. Goes on near zero. This is zero. So rates were literally near zero for a decade. Well, the economy started growing 2017, 2018, 2019. Fed gets concerned about inflation, hikes the rates, and then boom, COVID hits. So it's interesting. During these past 3 decades, we really haven't seen the normal degrading of the Fed funds rate. It's always been pretty much due to an emergency, to a crisis. So here we are. You've seen the series of Fed hikes. The rate right now, the effective rate's 5.33. The target rate's 5.25. So how fast will it come down? Well, if you look at the history of the Fed, generally it comes down slower than it goes up if you throw out the crises. So the Fed normally will declinate the rate by about 25 basis points per period. It does 50 when there's a big problem. It'll do 75 in a crisis. So that's why I say Warren arguing for a 75 basis point cut smells like fear to me. The market clamoring for a 50 basis point cut sends a pretty strong signal as to what the market overall thinks of the economy. Are we in a crisis? Democrats and the market's kind of demonstrating they think we are. They think we are. The jobs numbers have been bad. In the jobs report we just saw.
We do have a few other questions on the other channels and such whenever you get a chance.
Go ahead. We'll take them now.
All right. So the first one is that someone heard that the guy who did the second assassination was in the same video as the first guy. Is that true?
There's a BlackRock. I don't know if it was the same commercial, but BlackRock has a series of commercials, and they were both in BlackRock commercials. I'm not sure if it's the same commercial.
Okay. Another one was, sorry, I got to move to it. There seems to be a video of the second shooter being bused to Kamala. Crap, I don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah,
Rally.
to Kamala rally.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the picture, and I will admit it's just a guy standing there. It looks like him, old, grizzled, thin, gaunt, wearing, I think it was a pink shirt, if I remember.
Mm-hmm.
He was, he kind of stood out in the pink shirt, but I can't prove it was him. It looks like him.
Yeah,
but I'm not sure it's him.
Yeah, true.
So
I know
I'm cautious.
Yeah. And DeSantis is not turning over the guy to the feds. The same prosecutorial bodies that have gone after him recently in the past year. He is like, not going to happen.
Yeah, this guy was actually convicted years ago of having a weapon of mass destruction. That was the charge.
The Rude guy?
And he was given he was let out on probation. 2002, I believe it was. He has apparently been in Ukraine. Whether or not he was actually at the front or not, I'm not sure. But he was actively recruited for Ukraine
From?
for troops from Afghanistan, troops that wanted to flee Afghanistan. He's trying to recruit them to go to Ukraine and fight because they were trained by us.
That's interesting because I just saw something today about the chef for Michelle. Was it Michelle Obama or and the Clintons? No, Kamala and the Clintons has been doing these missions over in Ukraine for feeding people. And they're supported by the Clintons and from Kamala and from the Democratic Party. But he just gave a speech at Kamala's rally not long ago, like last week. So the Ukraine thing is interesting because this guy obviously has connections to all of it. I know I'm going down the rabbit hole.
Well, the thing is, what makes it interesting is this guy owned a truck that's worth, an old beater truck that's worth probably $1,000. So how does he afford trips to Ukraine? How does he afford, trips around to try to recruit for Ukraine? He obviously had some kind of information that Trump was not only at Mar-a-Lago, but he was going to be playing golf. Well, Mar-a-Lago is in Florida. This guy lives in Hawaii. Where the hell did he get money for a plane ticket from Hawaii to Miami? How was he, where was he staying in Miami?
Must have been that commercial made him that much money.
There's just a lot of questions like, why the hell? How the hell did this guy, get set up and know that Trump was going to be on that course the next day? He was there. He got there in the middle of the night. He was there about 12 hours before Trump got there. So it was pretty well planned out. And where did he get an AK from? He can't, with his conviction, he can never pass a gun purchase. Yeah. It's illegal for him to own a firearm, being a felon. So where did he get that from? And he also had people say he had two backpacks. They were actually armor vests with armor for his front and back. And how did they get positioned there? Because somebody, walking from his truck down the street to Mar-a-Lago carrying an AK-47 and, a couple of vests would probably be noticed. It's a relatively well-trafficked area, even at night.
Yeah, it is. And Merrick Garland.
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah, Merrick Garland's not going to prosecute it from the federal government as an assassination attempt, which I think is contemptible.
No, and that's the thing about doing it in Florida. They can charge him with attempted murder.
I think that's why DeSantis said we're not giving him up to the feds.
And they're going to do a wholly independent investigation. So, what can they find out? I don't know. Just don't know. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. And if there is some sort of competition between the Secret Service, the FBI, who actually was in charge of investigating it, and Florida. And it's interesting, the guy who's heading the investigation for the FBI, his name starts with a V. I can't think of his name. It's not Virago. Vero. I have to look it up.
That sounds
Anyway,
familiar.
yeah, he is a noted anti-Trumper. Absolutely hates Lowe's Trump. And he's heading up the investigation, which I find kind of interesting.
That's not right. I mean, honestly, I don't care which side of the fence you're on this one. No one deserves to be targeted. No one deserves to have complete and utter new laws made just to be able to go after you. That
You
is
know,
not the U.S. of A. That is not America.
no, I don't care if you like Trump's politics or not. He's a human. He's a father, a grandfather, a husband.
Husband,
People have been giving Melania hell because she's scared. Her husband has had 2 attempts on his life, and she's bothered by it. And people think that's
strange.
amusing, strange, whatever. Yeah. The country's just weird. And it's not just one side or the other. Both sides are getting weird. There's more and more division, which I hate to see. So I don't know what's going to happen. I do know, the first shooting event,
Mm-hmm.
we've heard nothing. No real leads, no real conclusion, no idea of how the shooter, got up there, the lapses, whatever. And why the FBI cleaned the site. The FBI never goes in and cleans a site. Never.
Cremated his body. It's gone.
And yeah. So why? That's just weird. In a case where there, is a death involved, attempted assassination of the president, for them to release the body after a week and let it be cremated. That's just weird.
And then power wash the roof like 2 days afterwards. That's nuts. You don't do that.
And nobody else could examine the crime scene.
Mm-mm.
Just FBI. There's just a whole lot of weirdness going on with the investigations. I'm not indicating anything is whatever. I'm just saying the whole process to me raises more questions than what it's answering. And I don't think that's a good resolution.
And you know what? I think the biggest problem is that I know that a lot of people on the left they're like, good, Trump, go, whatever, don't like him. This is never a one-way street. It will go both ways eventually. If you can use lawfare to go against one side, then you can use it to go against the other, and then everybody's in trouble. Yeah. It's like it doesn't stop just with this election. It will continue to go. It will be made law. It will be made, just a precedent.
Melissa, our little history buff, in addition to being our Hollywood buff, get the Warren Commission on it. And if you'll remember, Warren Commission is the commission that investigated the Kennedy assassination and produced a report that is also highly contested by, folks on both sides. And that's one thing that I kind of find interesting is RFK Jr., Bobby's son and John's nephew.
His nephew. Mm-hmm.
Is backing Trump. And I believe Trump has told him he'll release the entire file, unredacted. And I mean, you think about it, this was in 1963.
After 50 years, it has to be released, but they still won't do it.
They still won't do it. So it's time. There's nothing in there that the country shouldn't know. Voters shouldn't know, in my opinion.
The American people are not that stupid, and we're not that fragile. And I think that if you let us know what's going on, if you give us the truth, we can handle it. and we will vote the way that needs to be voted. It's not that difficult. I think that we have been lied to for so long, and we have been kind of put in the dark for so long that I don't think either side trusts either side or anybody else. It's like who can you trust now? Nobody's telling the truth.
And that's kind of one thing that concerns me about the election. Regardless of who wins, the other side is going to be very upset.
Yep.
And what happens then? You know,
I think we know, I mean, and I'm not naming names or anything, but after George Floyd, cities were burned down for a guy who literally died from an overdose. Cities were burned down, federal courthouses were attacked. I mean, all over the United States. They were like $20 billion worth of damage. And there was January 6th. I get that. There was damage. People were hurt. It's not good. But, like you said, it doesn't matter which side wins. The other side, it's not going to be pretty, in my humble opinion.
You know,
It's not gonna
if
be peaceful.
if Trump wins, will the anti-Trumpers accept the result? If Harris wins, will the Trumpers accept the result? You know, will we get in this endless election fraud story all again and have different accounts of how many ballots there, you know, vans showing up at 3 a.m. with a pallet of ballots, the machines, you know, the judge just issued an opinion where the Dominion CEO has to submit to a subpoena to question him on the integrity of the machines. This is 4 years after the election. You know, are we going to? You have to go through all this again?
I'd rather not.
Yeah, I'd rather not. So,
I just
but
know that it's
I
free
think
and
it's
fair.
highly likely.
Yeah.
I think it's highly likely, regardless of which side wins. So, you know, I say chaos, you know, chaos is coming. I think things are going to get more chaotic, more angry, more volatile in the markets as well as, you know, in political circles. So we'll see, but I just think that's a real risk. And I think it's sad.
It is
We used to
sad.
be able to, you know, to disagree and be civil, respectful, because we shared the same goals. Now I'm not even sure we share the same goals. I remember a guy who was very high up in the Federal Reserve. I worked with him for a while. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's very high up. This guy was known internationally. And he was talking about a particular candidate. And he said one thing, and it struck me as weird, but kind of fitting. He said, I don't know that he's on the reservation. You know, there are candidates that I disagree with politically in terms of their political views, but I think they love the country. This guy, I'm not sure, and I'm paraphrasing here, but his words were, I'm not sure he's on the reservation.
Who was he talking about?
I'm not going to say, not getting into that kind of detail.
Okay.
But that phrase has stayed with me. And now I oftentimes look at different politicians. And in my mind, I do wonder if they're on the reservation. We've talked about the Great Reset. And you see some of these policies implemented, some of the goals, some of the funding, where the money's directed. And it's like they're working to implement this bit by bit, smooth the way for it. Are they on the reservation? Who are they really rooting for? So I have doubts. That doesn't prove anything. But again, just following some of the trends, it's very frustrating sometimes to have much hope. I want to have hope. I want to believe things will get better. It's getting increasingly difficult for me. Now, y'all may not share that perspective, and that's okay. But for me, you know, I see things like, we've talked about some of the numbers, the data, just looking at the data. The jobs numbers have been bad for an extended period of time. This latest report, well, no, let me start. Remember, about 4 months ago, I told you that 1.6 or 7 million full-time jobs had been lost. 1.8 million part-time jobs had been created. That Americans lost jobs, foreign-born have gained jobs. That was like 4 months ago. Well, new numbers, looking at the new numbers, last week's job numbers actually showed that over the past 12 months, there is an additional 1.3 million job losses and 1.2 million foreign-born new jobs. The lousy trends continue. That's certainly not an economic success story, and some may label it a crisis. There are other issues that the Fed has to consider. We're talking about what will the Fed do? 25, 50, 75. I think it's really between 25 and 50. So if you look at the jobs numbers, maybe you can build a story. If the Fed's paying close attention to the job numbers, you can build a story that 50 basis points is what they do. But there's other issues. Underlying inflation, which was the Fed's primary mandate of late, core CPI, core PPI, both are up over the last 4 months. Core CPI. CPI is the main inflation number, and it was down. But if you take out energy and food, core CPI has risen over the past 4 months. That's what core is. It takes out food and energy because those are volatile. Those move up and down a lot. Same with PPI, producer prices. These are the costs for raw materials that end up ultimately being passed on to the consumer. PPI has been up for the last 4 months. Shelter this last month was up 5%. Shelter is a big lagging, cost of housing is a big lagging effect for various reasons. Well, it's finally started increasing, showing up with a rapid increase. It was up 0.5% last month alone. It will continue to rise, particularly if rates are cut and loan mortgage demand increases just a little. If you look at things like total debt, total non-financial debt to GDP is a record 260%. We are a nation deep in debt, individuals, companies, and debt-saturated economies do not grow rapidly. They don't grow quickly, especially when middle-class living standards have been utterly torpedoed by inflation. The dollar continues to weaken. If the Fed cuts rates, it will only further weaken, and a weaker dollar means more inflation. The imported goods cost more. It also means that, particularly if the BOJ hikes again, you'll see continued significant capital drains out of the country. Japanese, Chinese, European investors will pull their money out and redirect it elsewhere. Bottom line, I don't think Powell wants to be the next Arthur Burns. Arthur Burns was the Fed chair in the 70s, who was known for his oversight and engineering a stagnant economy with high inflation. He cut rates too quick. They weren't enough to help spur the economy, but they did allow inflation to take another foothold. Added a little fuel possibly to inflation. So I'm still sticking with my prediction. I think Powell will be conservative. I think he'll be cautious, stick with the traditional 25 basis point cut. We'll know tomorrow. And if I'm wrong, you all can give me hell afterwards. But I don't, looking at the history of 50 basis point cuts, I don't think, and with inflation starting to tick up, I think Powell doesn't want to be the next Arthur Burns. So I'm going to stick with 25 basis point. Do y'all have any predictions? While you're thinking about your predictions, I did want to show you this. Oh, come on now. All right. Got to do this first so we can get the sound. Isn't there a big screen view here? This is the page of one of our beloved members of the family, Melissa. Love Pug Circus. And this is a post that Ellen and I noticed today. Ellen actually sent me a separate reel. I couldn't get reels to work. Don't know why. Don't know if that's fixed. But this is kind of very similar. Love Pug Circus. Let me add this in. What Melissa is cheering and promoting is called the Wheeling Pug Relay. It is a virtual cross-country race to raise awareness about specially able pugs and animals of all kind, really. How mobility equipment, like you see this pug in a harness with wheels, how this mobility equipment can help provide them a longer and happier life. So it's kind of a fundraising endeavor. And if you're interested, go to this Instagram site, Love Pug Circus, and she's got all the information there, including a donation. If you want to support this kind of endeavor, support the pups. It's got links and everything. But we thought this was cute and would just share it with you. So thought that was just damn cute. Thought would share it with you. Love Pug Circus, the Wheeling Pug Relay. And if y'all have any interest, any websites or whatever, something that you would like promoted, one of another member of the family, I keep wanting to call her Sky, but her label now is Dogs Discussions. We kidded about calling her, Mrs. Beast, but they have a YouTube site, Dogs Discussions, and have some pretty cute videos there as well. So, if y'all have something that you want to share or, want us to throw up and share with everybody, we would love to. I remember a year or two ago, we had a puppy night where everybody sent in pictures of their pets. it may be time. I'll talk with Ellen. Maybe time to do that again some Tuesday. That was a fun night, and we got some really good pictures. So we'll do that again. She makes some super fun content. It is between, Love Pug Circus and Dogs Discussions. It's just kind of a happy moments. So if you want to see something that'll make you smile, check out those two sites. Now, I saw this the other day, and I thought it was interesting. Can y'all see that? This guy, posted a graph and some data on average family health insurance premiums. 1999 for the year, family health insurance, I presume a family of 4, paid $6,000. Well, since 1999, it has gone up, 205, 11, 214, 17, 220, 21, 2023, $24,000 for health insurance. That's a 314% increase since 1999, 6% per year. CPI has increased 2.5% per year over this same time. Now, if y'all remember my story about the little old redheaded lady, in terms of her returns, investment returns over, a 40-year period, if she had a 3% additional return, her money would have doubled over that period. So when you talk about 1, 2, 3, 4% per year over a 20, 30-year period, that makes a huge number. And that's better illustrated in this graph. This blue is the average cost of inflation over this period, and the orange is the cost of just insurance. Also, keep in mind that, once Obamacare was passed, for the average person, their deductibles and copays greatly increased as well. So the cost of healthcare has gone even higher than this. Because not only have your insurance rates increased, the amount you're liable for in copays and deductibles have increased as well. So I thought that was kind of damned amazing and kind of sad at the same time.
It is. I also I got a message from Miss Jane. Some more, sorry, but shooter information. I emailed it to you, Clay.
Okay. Let me load up the email here. Which one did you send it to, actually?
Work.
Okay. For those of you that are not familiar, Jane is another member of the family, a very regular and faithful contributor, and she comes up with some good questions, good points.
Yes, she is tied up at the moment, not literally, but figuratively. So she's coming.
Okay, this is about Roush, the shooter. I have not watched it, don't know anything about it, but I'm going to go ahead and play it just for the fun of it. One, because I got in late, I've been swamped at work, didn't have a whole lot prepared for tonight. Two, I trust Jane. So
make sure the volume's on.
Yeah, volume's on. Let me just restart this just to be safe. For those of you not familiar, we've had some reoccurring problems with StreamYard carrying the sound.
Mm-hmm.
So usually if we have some video with sound, I try to restart it every time. And it's a little irritating, but appreciate you bearing with us. All
You'll
right.
make that full screen real quick first. There you go.
All right. Here we go. And I have no idea what this is, but we'll see. This is the guy that just attempted an assassination of former President Trump.
And why are you here?
I'm 56 from the U.S. From North Carolina originally, so live in Hawaii now. So flew all the way from Hawaii here. So the question as far as why I'm here, to me, you know, a lot of the other conflicts are gray, but this conflict is definitely black and white. This is about good versus evil. This is a storybook. You know, any movie we ever watched, this is definitely evil against good. I mean, we're battling a situation here where, you know, the Ukrainians and the rest of the world are caring and kind and generous and unselfish and take care of one another. And it's just a matter of, you know, we need to stand up for that. That is the most important thing in the world, is just to show human beings that we're kind and we're caring and that we take care of one another and that the world is united, so that we feed each other and make sure that, you know, we all move forward as one collective whole unit. So, you know, we feel the pain of one country's failure and their conflicts, and we enjoy the successes of other countries that are doing good, and we all work together. And for some reason, Russia does not grasp this concept that we're all one unit, and we have to get along and work together and be normal human beings. This is 2022. We have to work together. It seems asinine that we have a leader in a country that does not understand the concept of being unselfish and being generous and being kind, and just the basic moral values that are required by human beings these days. It blows my mind.
And what are you doing here in Ukraine?
My initial goal was to come and fight. I think, you know, everybody around the globe should be motivated to come here and support the Ukrainians and support the army, no matter what gender, age, anything. Everybody should be here supporting the army. But I'm 56, so initially they were like, well, I have no military experience. So they're like, you're not an ideal candidate. So they said, not right this minute. So plan B was to come here to Kyiv and promote getting more people here. You know, we need thousands and thousands and thousands of people here fighting with the Ukrainians. We need, you know, we've got 190 countries around the world, and we need thousands from all of them. If the governments will not send their official military, then we civilians have to pick up the torch and make this thing happen. And we've gotten some wonderful people here, but it's a small fraction of the number that should be here. If we have 5,000, you know, to 10,000 people here fighting, you know, that is just a minuscule amount of the 5 billion people on the globe. You know, we need everyone here fighting. That's why I'm in Kyiv. So every project that I promote is about getting people here to support the Ukrainians. We were at a critical juncture in this war where we are sitting on the fence as far as whether good or evil is going to win. You know, right now we're looking at a situation where the world is waning, and it's thinking that this is important or not. And we're at a point where, you know, all right, are we going to stand for humanity, for human rights, for everything that is good with the world, or are we just going to ignore it? You know, if everybody is complacent and doesn't join this fight, then guess who's going to win? It might take 10 years, but we're going to lose this battle if everyone around the globe does not stop what they're doing, get off the couch, and come to Ukraine and defend the human rights of everyone around the globe. This is the most important thing going on in the world today. So sitting around and letting life go on as normal and complaining about gas prices and complaining about, you know, your luxury.
Interesting guy. He no, he was just carrying on. It goes on for 10 minutes. He had a book that he wrote. I don't know if it got published to any degree, but ABC unearthed it. And in going through the book, they cite him as saying that Iran should feel free to assassinate Trump. The guy just doesn't have both oars dipping in the water at the same time. There are reports, for example, that he tried to raise money for the Azov Brigade in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
And this is we're basically a Nazi group that would use cities in the Donbass region for artillery practice, just for the fun of it.
Okay.
They would, torture and try to control the people who are largely Russian speaking in the region.
Right.
So not a stellar history. He's got a ton of criminal convictions. And I saw, one picture of the rifle. Everybody describes it as an AK-47. It looked more like an SKS to me, but I'm not sure. The picture was real grainy and it was small. But anyway, how did he get that, how did he get that gun, get it positioned with nobody knowing? A lot of weird questions about the guy on the deal. I think it's pretty clear. Ukraine, he didn't really describe it accurately. Apparently, Ukraine did not want him fighting with them because they thought he was a wacko. But he would still try to raise support for Ukraine. Do what?
You got receipts for that? You always tell me if I say anything like that, I have to have receipts.
Daily horoscope.
Nope.
If you read your daily horoscope, it'll tell you everything you need.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and his last name is Ruth. I know some Ruth from Greensboro.
Probably related.
Would not surprise me. How about that?
Yeah, we're not going to go into that, but
no, I didn't say I was.
One guy in a private group chat stated, "Oh man, I recognize that guy. He had some scheme where he was moving people from Afghanistan to Ukraine to fight."
I remember Ryan well, but not fondly.
Well, but not fondly. One fighter said he met Ruth and he got the impression he was already extremely shady. Ran to him once. He struck me as unbalanced and dangerous. So, that good enough on the receipts for you?
It helps. It helps to see all the things that are going on in the world.
There's a lot out there. We're not, usually most of these stories you can dismiss most of the first rush of headlines.
Right.
Everybody's so eager to be the first to break the news or the story that usually
they'll make stuff up.
Yeah, make stuff up, or they take something little and blow it up beyond what it should be, or just, go with the rumor and present it as fact. But we're a day or two out, and so some of this ought to be shaking out.
By now. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's crazy.
There you go.
It's literally insane. I mean, it seems like both these guys were a little unhinged.
Is that a good thing? Because you think no normal person would do this. So you've got, these two fanatics, crazy people.
There are lots of unhinged out there, babe.
that's the downside, is that these people are actually walking around in society and, doing whatever under the guise of being normal or decent or whatever. People don't even recognize it much anymore, but to me, it's becoming more and more common.
I think you're right.
Um,
Unfortunately.
yeah, it's just, when I was a kid, we could go out and play at night, like during the summers, didn't have school. So, we could be out to 9. It was a little past dark.
We could catch fireflies and do whatever.
Yeah. Now, I don't think most parents would let their kids out of their sight in the evenings, much less at night, just to run around wherever they wanted in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Guy looks like he needs a good meal.
He could use a cheeseburger or 50. And he is from Greensboro, I think you said, North Carolina.
Yep. There was a picture of him, a video of him attending a rally supporting Azov, and it's Mariupol Garrison. Now the brigade has said that he had nothing to do specifically with Azov. They're kind of trying to deny him.
Mm-hmm.
But there's actually video of him supporting them.
Is that that's
attending
the
a rally?
Group.
Is it?
No. Azov?
Azov. AZOV.
No, this is different. I was trying to find who sent it to me.
Yeah, Azov is the Nazi.
Okay, gotcha.
Group. So, anybody have any other questions, comments? Scott, he didn't take a shot, so he probably won't stay in jail that long. He has been convicted, I believe, of a felony. He was in possession of a gun, tried to attempt murder. So, I don't know what the judge will do, but there's probably a fair chance the judge will deny bail and keep him in lockdown. I would even put him in, what do you call it? Isolation under 24-hour watch. Because I do think that the guy had help, and depending on how influential or powerful that help is, that set him up, put him in that position, gave him the information he needed. I don't want him to be Epstein. So let's keep this guy alive and see what information he has.
I'm trying to find it was very interesting.
While Ellen is looking.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I hope he gets locked down. While Ellen is looking, any of y'all have any other questions? Did get one, excuse me, on tariffs. Which, if you remember in the debate, Vice President Harris bragged about Goldman Sachs, saying she's better for the economy. Well, it's kind of funny. Goldman Sachs CEO and came out and said that's not accurate, that it was a report written by an independent analyst, not official Goldman Sachs. And it also turns out that, that particular analysis counted illegal immigrant welfare as GDP. So the $500 billion a year we're spending on illegal immigrant welfare was added to GDP. And it also apparently massive, I don't know the exact numbers, but overestimated the impact of tariffs on China, as far as that being a negative and inflationary impact. What most people don't understand when they talk about tariffs or knocking tariffs per se is that Trump saying he's going to impose tariffs of up to 100% is a bargaining tool. a lot of
Yes.
countries. Go ahead.
Yes, it gets passed on to us, but we won't buy it. That's the
Well, part of it is it's a bargaining tool. A lot of countries, Europe, China, Japan, put tariffs on imported American products. So Trump is saying, if you're going to tax our imports into your country, we'll tax your imports into ours. Like the Marshall Plan. Y'all remember after World War, y'all don't remember, but y'all know after World War II, in what was it, 48, America passed the Marshall Plan, which was a plan to fund and help rebuild Europe after the devastation of the war. One of the tools of that was to allow Europe to impose a high tariff, 100% on American goods, in order to try to increase and stimulate European production. Well, some of those tariffs have remained in place. It come down on some products, but they still have tariffs in place. Like on American cars, they're still charging a 10 or 15% tariff on American cars. So if you're looking at a $50,000 car, that's an additional $5,000 or $6,000, which makes the American vehicles much less competitive against comparable European vehicles. They also have very stringent requirement for the imports in terms of pollution and different safety equipment, et cetera, et cetera. There's a very long vetting process they have to go through, which is very expensive. So they have all these obstacles to a clean and quick, a free market for American vehicles. They have much better opportunity to sell their cars in America than American manufacturers have to sell theirs in Europe or Japan. And so the threatening use of tariffs is to simply, it's a negotiating tool, just like it was when Trump was first elected. He put these tariffs in. Some of them only lasted a month or two till the countries removed their tariffs. Canada was one. Now, some of the tariffs may stay in place, like China, because China is become very hostile to America, very aggressive toward Taiwan, and very aggressive in terms of trying to increase its claim in the Pacific Ocean for areas which are rich in oil, which are claimed by nobody. It's kind of in a no man's land. Well, China's trying to claim it as their own.
Did you get the email?
So, another one?
The one I
got.
sent.
Well, that's the one I just threw up. Oh no, you sent me another one.
There we go. This is the connection in the Ukraine.
I don't know if it's the connection, but it's another one. So anyway, let me finish on tariffs while I'm on the point. If you remember, the first time around when Trump implemented tariffs, it didn't kick off inflation, did not spur inflation for a number of reasons. One, there's usually substitute products, so you can buy something else that's not tariffed. Two, a lot of the manufacturing left China and went to other countries. No tariffs. Some of them even moved plants to the U.S. So it increased jobs and manufacturing in the U.S. So there's a lot of different aspects in there that aren't included in the Goldman Sachs. And then finally, there's this. U.S. finalizes China tariff increases, Biden announced in May. So Kamala's knocking Trump for threatening tariffs in China against China, while Biden is implementing tariffs against China. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Ironic.
Ironic at best. All right, here is
You probably got to
Ellen's
restart
video.
it with the
I'm going
sound.
to. Let me try it and see if it works, just for the fun of it.
You're gonna love this. We know who this is right over here in the American shirt, right? Do you know who this is? First of all, it's a chef. Chef Jose Andres. Do you know who that is? Smart Farming with Jose Andres and Secretary Hillary Clinton and President Bill Clinton. No. He was just cooking for Kamala not that long ago. He's a humanitarian chef who works for a company called the World Central Kitchen. And they go around the world and they feed third world countries like Haiti and soon America if we don't get our shit together. How does something like this happen? So he was in Ukraine because there's a war in Ukraine and, you know, he's the humanitarian kitchen guy. And apparently the would-be assassinator wanted a picture with him while he was also out there pushing for America to get more involved in Ukraine. Look at all the Ukraine flags, right? And he just spoke at the Clinton Global Initiative meeting like a week ago. You're going to love this.
Isn't that interesting? Oh, shit. Here we go. Sorry. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I don't know what it proves, but you know, the guy got around, and a humanitarian chef in third world nations. I don't know that
Who just spoke
feeding
at the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah, I don't know that feeding third world people some creme brulee is really a humanitarian endeavor. That's just interesting to me.
It's suspicious AF
Yeah.
to me.
It's just unusual. I would not think that would be a great ministry to show them what an abundance of food and being able to do these fancy dishes, you know, what they're missing out on.
And
Hey,
that
if
guy
y'all
was
only
there.
weren't starving, you could have this every day.
Yeah, right. But that's not how it works in America. Everyone knows this.
So that was just another weird quirk in all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So
You know, what I'm getting a hankering for talking about food,
creme brulee.
macaroni and cheese.
Oh, geez. So we go from fine dining to.
Hey, my macaroni and cheese is some pretty fine dining.
It is good. I'm not going to argue that.
We did have someone respond that they made it for their family and they devoured it. So,
Oh, it is good mac and cheese. Not saying that. Just not sure I can eat it.
I know you
That
can't,
would
but
be the problem.
I can eat
Yeah.
the hell out of it.
All right. Anybody have any other questions? Any comments? Anything you want to share?
I want mac and
It
cheese.
is your night. Mac and cheese night. Go back and watch the recipe video.
Only if you remember. I might have to post it. You guys got it very, very first, but oh, it's so good. I can actually make it in the crock pot too, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it is some fine mac and cheese.
Have another cooking evening. What do you guys want us to cook? Or me to cook and Clay to watch? Trying to think of something. I have to do like a meal or like a whole thing this time. Like the Greek turkey pitas are good, but that discounts Melissa, so I don't necessarily want to do that without something else.
Could do cheese bread.
We do need to do a bread one. We got to do a bread one. And we can do bread and maybe tortillas at the same time. Tortillas are quick and easy.
Yeah, couldn't do the bread live because some of it has to proof overnight for 12 hours or whatever. So
Tortillas are easy.
Yeah, we could video the different parts and then cut and edit and put it in a 5-10 minute video as part of the show. So we can do some things like that.
I'm thinking now. Spaghetti, of course. That's another
Chili.
one of my specialties. You don't.
I
would have to do chili.
My chili's better.
Canned chili and throw some other crap in there. That's Clay's chili. No, we don't do
It's
it that way.
better. It tastes better.
No.
Mine wins chili competitions.
Oh, God. In Alabama, where they think that barbecue is anything that you pour barbecue sauce on. So I don't even want to go there with you.
So, well, that's about everything that I had. Grill
Yep.
the dog that gets a lot of hits. Grill the dogs that gets a lot of hits.
We can't grill the dog. Yeah. Haha. Ohio, Springfield.
Oh. Yeah,
It takes him a minute.
that was
God bless
cats.
It was dogs too. And ducks
Um,
and geese. All the things are being eaten.
Yeah, well, I was saying at first hot dogs, but Ellen can't eat hot dogs. They make her sick. So that was my first thought. Grill the hot dogs.
I'm allergic.
Yeah, it doesn't go over well, which is a shame because I like hot dogs. I know they're not good for
I
you.
do too. I love them. They're so good, but yeah, the next day I'm vomiting the entire day.
It's,
so that
it's
doesn't
not a
work out.
good result. Yep.
No, not at all. You don't want that. Well,
All right.
huh?
That's all I have for tonight.
Okay.
Anybody
I know
else
you're
have any?
exhausted.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions, comments? Now, if you do, feel free to email me, moffatonmoney@gmail.com.
We're both on X.
DM me at Twitter. You can find us both on Twitter, Moffat on Money and Ellen Seeley.
No, just Ellen Lee 5.
Okay, Ellen Lee 5.
The number 5. Mm-hmm.
And it's Lee, Lea.
Yeah.
So, feel free to DM us with questions, comments, thoughts, good, bad, and different.
Oh, hang on.
Tommy Klein. I arrived late, and you may have touched on this. What are your thoughts on our nation's access to rare earth materials? Does China have us in a hole we
Minerals.
cannot climb out of?
It depends on EPA regulations, in my humble opinion. We have the minerals, but we're not allowed to mine them.
Yeah, we shut most of ours down 20, 30 years ago. China, was a cheaper source, and it didn't hurt the environment here. We didn't really care about the environment in China. But they have become so valuable and essential, particularly with some of the expanding use of, battery, electrical devices, and semiconductors.
Lithium, cobalt, all the things.
Yeah, there's all sorts of them. They could do us some damage if they just flat out went cold turkey. It would do them damage because it would cost them a lot of money that they need desperately right now. Their economy's tanking. Of course, it looks like they're reverting more to a Maoist type of government, hardline communist, becoming more and more authoritarian, revoking some of their liberties and freedoms that they had. So they really may not care greatly how bad the people suffer if it, better fits their political aims. So, yeah, it would be uncomfortable for us, but we could restart, a lot of our rare earth mining. We have to obviously get the EPA out of the way, but we could restart a lot of the rare earth mining. And there's places in Chile and some others that also have rare earth materials.
And China was sold a lot of the major rare earth minerals mines. I'm not going to say by who. So that they do have a bit of a stronghold on it at this point, but they're also willing to sacrifice the health of their people to do so. So there's got to be another way, in my opinion. There's got to be a way that we can get past it. But that's my opinion.
And I know there's some work with AI and molecular development and element restructuring and creation. to where, maybe some of these minerals could be synthetically produced or similar materials produced that could replace the mining of rare earth materials.
Mhm.
So there's potential, there's options,
It's
but
just like food.
as of
We'll just
right now,
something else.
yeah, as of right now with pharmaceuticals, rare earth materials, China has us by the throat. If they wanted to cut off antibiotics, I don't think there's a manufacturer for antibiotics in the US anymore. That would be a big problem.
We have moldy bread.
Several things like that.
Just saying.
Yeah, that's a good question, but people have been aware of this for 5, 6, 7 years, particularly as China's grown more hostile. And I think there have been some moves to try to address it, but not enough. Thank you. Appreciate the question.
You're very welcome. Thank you for showing up and asking.
Appreciate you joining in. Hope you will again soon.
Hmm.
Well, y'all, we're a little short. We ran a little late last time. We got a few more minutes, but going to call it a night. The old man has pooped.
I will do my my banner for you. It's here somewhere. I just saw it. Oh, here we go.
There is one thing I haven't done in a while that I just kind of want to do.
Very appropriate.
Still the best swoosh on the web. So thank
I
you,
agree.
Melissa. Good night to all of y'all. We do appreciate you joining in. We appreciate your participation. We appreciate your support. Love you guys. Appreciate the members of the family. Hope y'all have a great week ahead.
We will see you on Saturday. We love you, honey. We love you all.
Saturday night at 7. Be there, be square.
And
Y'all have a
we'll
great
have something
evening.
fun. All right. Good night, guys.
Our time is up. We thank you for yours. Good night.